Mm.
So would you like to get started, or should we wait a few minutes, or?
I'm easy when whatever you want to do. I'm easy. Okay.
Looks like we have quite a few people here, so others can join in as they access the Zoom meeting. I just want to welcome everyone to the Big Love Summit, and this session has been organized by FDCW to celebrate and share programs that help us develop our compassion, ethics, and wisdom. Our session, if you have not attended other ones, our presenter, Pam Cayton, I will introduce Pam, and she is going to be talking on one big family, connection and compassion. And there will be time afterwards for any questions. So also encourage you, if you have questions and want to put them in chat, we will be taking a look at that after Pam's talk. So Pam spent 10 years in Nepal studying Asian philosophy and religion and teaching English to the Buddhist monks. And also at that time co-founded the Himalayan Yogic Institute in Kathmandu, Nepal. In 1988, Pam moved to the United States, where she completed her Montessori training. And in 1989, started Tara Redwood School with the aim of educating the whole child. This is preschool to grade 3. And to convey that joy of learning and also to provide a foundation for the emotional and inner development of each child. And with the success of the Tara Redwood School in 2012, Pam founded Creating Compassionate Cultures. This is an organization dedicated to developing training programs like the 7 Steps to Knowledge, Strength, and Compassion, and also all the tools and resources required, and she shares them with educators around the world. It's a wonderful blend of Western philosophy and the Eastern depth of logic, wisdom, and compassion. So I'll hand this over to you, Pam. Looking forward to hearing all about one big family, connection and compassion.
Yes. Okay. Hello, everybody. Thanks for taking the time to attend. I see some familiar faces. Really lovely to see you there. Okay. Yeah, it feels like one big family, actually. When I sort of accepted to teach this class, I was thinking, okay, you know, I had the choices, and I thought compassion and connection is really how creating compassionate culture started. And it was really from my side, looking at how I could awaken the wish in the mind of the child to want to be kind. So I realized very early in the piece that one main primary thing that was missing, element was missing, was their understanding and awareness of interconnection. It's really interesting because that's the way everything exists, but we generally do not teach from that perspective. But first and foremost, we're going to have just a moment to center. I know it will be good for me to get a little centered. And that's what we call it at Tara too, at the school. We never did talk about meditation or refer to it as meditation, because back in 1988, 89, and what we were trying to start, and our wish was to start a universal education school, a program, not faith-based, but universal education inspired by Lama Yeshe. So we talk about it as centering, and it's really finding our center, you know. So we're going to just follow the breath, and that breath sort of helps us to get centered, and then I will pick up from where we leave off here. So everybody sitting comfortably, relaxed. I know you all know how to do this, and you can even, you know, from where you've come from, and you've probably been busy and trying to make it to the class. So you can even do some shoulder rolls just to sort of relax or ease out any tension. I usually start with that when I teach my parenting classes. And you can also just do some nice head rolls, just relax any tension. We hold a lot of tension in our shoulders, if we have tension at all. Maybe we're all a little stress-free. Okay, and sitting comfortably now, back straight. Have that sort of feeling like you have this string attached to the top of your head, just stretching your spine out, stretching you up. But no, just don't bring your shoulders up with that. Hands in your lap, sitting comfortably. Okay, we're just going to focus on the breath entering through our nose and leaving through our nose. If you notice your mind wandering, gently bring it back to the breath. And seeing as the title of our talk today is connection, just take a moment, or one part of it is connection, take a moment to reflect on the coming and the going of the breath. One breath follows the other. And as we breathe in the oxygen that comes from the trees, plants, and we breathe out the carbon dioxide. Carbon dioxide goes out and is breathed in absorbed by the trees and plants. And they breathe out the oxygen. We breathe in the oxygen. And breathe out the carbon dioxide. And as the breath and the oxygen comes into our body and through our nose, think of all those parts of our body that depends on that oxygen. It goes through our body, oxygenates every atom, every cell of our body. That life-giving breath. And every being depends upon this life-giving breath for their survival, the oxygen. Every being on this planet So taking this title, this focus, that compassion and connection, that actually simply stated, connection is required for compassion to arise. There's no way, to develop compassion without connection, without others. And it's often stated that even those who pose a challenge for us, and situations that pose a challenge, but for people, animals, whatever, that pose a challenge for us, actually give us the opportunity to develop a deeper compassion. But how to sort of develop that awareness that that's the case? Right? Because generally speaking, we are focusing primarily on the feel good, right? Because in every moment, we want happiness. We want to feel good. Would you agree? Every moment we want to feel good. We want to be happy. And in essence, it's the same for all beings. No matter how small, no matter how large, all beings have that wish. But usually and very often, it's not a conscious awareness that that's what we all want. Certainly the bugs, I don't know, probably don't have that awareness, but they have that protection. They protect themselves from being harmed, right? Nothing really wants to be harmed. So when I first started the school, so maybe we can go back to that a little bit on how or what inspired me to start. And it was really to start the program. It was really when I moved to this country and saw that there was such a need to help children to understand what they had to be grateful for, right? Because I saw there was just a lot of a focus on themselves, because we all want to be happy. And the parents were focusing on the children. They want them to be happy. But then it started to get a little extreme, where they didn't seem to have this sense of gratitude or, awareness of sort of what we had to be grateful for, right? So I started to think about it, and I saw that, really what it was, I didn't want to tell the children, well, you need to say please and thank you, and you need to be grateful for what you have. That doesn't work. But how to awaken that awareness in the children, that was my goal. That was the challenge. How was I going to do that? And so we started just by simply looking at connection, interconnection. Because I can see these children were, wonderful children, really, and enjoying their snack and enjoying playing, but they didn't have what hadn't really been developed in them was this awareness of where all those pleasures, where everything came from. So there wasn't that sense of gratitude. Mm-hmm. And also it was a culture of kind of instant gratification. You want, you get, or I scream, and make it difficult for you. So it was then that I just started to think, okay, how can I awaken that awareness? And so that simple interconnection, that connection of where did your snack come from? It's basic, but we don't really ask those kinds of questions, right, to the children. Well, where did this snack come from? Oh, it came from my mom. My mom put it in my lunchbox. Oh, okay, wow. Well, let's see what we got. You got crackers and cheese. Oh, where did they come from? Where did the crackers come? Where'd your mom get those crackers? Oh, she got them from the cupboard. Oh, she got them from the fridge. Oh, So they're always in the cupboard and the fridge? No, sometimes no. Where'd they come from? And so you go back to just start to talk about where the production of those. Oh, yeah, no, she got them from the store. She got them from the store. Okay, well, are they always in the store? Where'd the store get them from? Do they make crackers? Where did the store? And so on. So they start to just think back through that string, that web of interconnection. And it can go on forever because you can even go to the trucks that bring the snack there, or the soil that the farmers plant the seeds in for the wheat. So it is vast, because that's the way everything exists. Everything exists interconnectedly, right? It's basic science, right? And so, with the first step, of what developed as the 7 steps to knowledge, strength, and compassion. Compassion actually is the last of the 7 steps. So we don't really expect, if you like, children to have that, or even we as adults, to necessarily have developed that compassion. And yet now science also says that we are basically born with a natural empathy, a natural compassion, a natural goodness, right? But if we don't pay attention to it, if we don't nurture it, if we don't focus on it, and we're focusing more on the instant gratification or the pleasure, pleasure seeking, which we will be endless, right? We know that, particularly in these times, and particularly in this culture that I moved to from Asia. That will never end. And of course, when we look and we see, okay, how do we find this happiness that in essence we all want? Is it in external pleasure? Is it getting things that we want, that we really want? But what is it that we really want in wanting those things? And so that became our first question in asking the children. When you come to school, what is it that you really want? Do you want kids you have to be the guide a little bit? Or they might say, we want candy every day in school or whatever. So you just ask them, do you want to come to a class where children are saying, hey, you want to be my friend? Oh, yes, sure. You can come play with me, or do you want to come to a school where somebody says, no, I don't want to be your friend. I don't want to play with you, right? It's simple, basic. And then, with the little ones, it's really this focus on then, if you want to have friends when you come to school, what is a friend? What is a good friend? And from their side, they come up with these things: hugs, kindness, being kind, giving hugs, sharing. And those from the side of 2, 3-year-old children, those are what I call universal values. Those values arise. Now I've taught different countries around the world, all different age groups, and at the school, starting with 2-year-olds going up to middle school. And those same values, when you ask, what is it that you really want? What is it you really want in your life? What is it that you really want in your home? What you really want for your child? Really want. What are those qualities that you really most want? That's all you have to do. And what comes from that, from their experience, are those, what I call universal values of kindness. And then you ask them, okay, so you really think, okay, what in essence, it's like friendship and kindness helps you to feel happy, right? Do you think everybody wants to be happy? What do you think? Do mom and dad want to be happy? What about the bugs? What about the animals? Do you have pets? Do they want to be happy? Yeah, they love it when I pat them and my cat purrs. That means she's happy, right? It's simple. It's not complicated, right? But then you ask them, okay, so we want all be good friends here. So, how do we do that? How do we always practice being a good friend? Because sometimes we forget, and they'll say that. They'll say, hey, she wasn't being a really good friend today to me because she said that I couldn't come and sit with her when she was eating her lunch, whatever it is, right? Say, okay. Well, that's not really how we're practicing to being a good friend, is it? But how can you help her to learn, or how can we remember what it means to be a good friend, and we want to have those good friend qualities in our classroom. How can we remember? So we set the morning intention, and we have something called kindness detectives, where we look for the kindness with others, but also, and we acknowledge it with these little glass jewels. And we have qualities that are all different colors, so that they remember, because we're training our mind, we have to train ourselves, and we as adults do as well, right? But it's looking and acknowledging the positive that everybody has, right? And that positive, and the focus on those positive qualities that we refer to as innate positive goodness, innate goodness that every being has. We focus on that, and it grows stronger. And they start to identify that they are that, okay? They do have those qualities. But also, moving up from just focus on oneself, everybody has those qualities. Again, connecting more and seeing the world that everybody has that goodness inside them. Okay, so it's leading the children, connecting with their goodness inside and leading it out, their awareness out, to understand that all beings, everybody has that same goodness inside and wants that same feel good and happiness. Connection. So in that way too, the connection of not just focusing on oneself, but focusing on others. So it's expanding their mind. And of course, seeing then that, how do we actually create that happiness, right? Do we wait for other children or other people to do it first, to make that kindness in that happy classroom, that happy home, or that happy world? Do we wait for everybody else to do it first? Or do we have a magic wand that we can magically make it happen? Well, how are we going to make it happen then? So then what about if we just do it ourselves? Will that make it work? We start by doing it. And so the children think about that. And that makes sense. So what I've really learned about working with children and with this work is that children have this ability to think about things. And we know also, research shows that children, even as young as 18 months, and I'd say even younger, have something called metacognition, where they can think about thought. They can think about these things that we think were quite sophisticated. But if we ask them the questions, they can go there. They can think about those things, right? So it's engaging them to think about why be kind. And we know research-wise, you get even kindness, right? Kindness, you get the feedback loop is you feel good when you're kind. You feel happy, and that's what you want. And others feel happy too, right? So actually, connection and understanding, right? That all that we have and all that we enjoy comes from the labors and the kindness of others. Connection, big connection. Big connection. And keep expanding. Can you think of anything that's not connected? Everything's connected. And every being in that whole wide world wants to be happy just like us, right? And so building on this is integrated and teaching children from that perspective, So building it in and teaching from the perspective of the way things actually exist. And seeing, so step one in our steps is one, asking that big question, what do I really want? And becoming aware that what I want is actually what everybody else wants. We're all connected and all the same in that way. And it's the first little spark of starting to generate empathy. Second step is then, how do we make that happen? How do we develop that happiness? How do we create it? Is it just me, and giving to me? That doesn't work, You can't always get what you want, right? But they also learn, even just from simple centering, that they have that happiness. They can connect with that goodness and that happiness in themselves just by centering. Calm down, peaceful, relaxed. But then creating that happy situation for others as well is because we're all connected, and what we do affects everybody, affects each other, right? And they affect others, and they affect others, and so it goes, right? Because we are all connected, just like the ripple in the pond. One stone in the ripple goes out to affect the whole water. So not only that, but okay, so the thinking around that, sorry, I started going with water, but not only that, but in this step 2, we really explore that, you know, can it happen through the magic wand? No. So if I had a seed in my hand and I wished, you know, I wish this would grow into a big sunflower. I wish, will it grow? No. Why not? You need the causes and the conditions, right? You need the sun, you need the earth, you need the water, right? You need the air. So just in the same way, to keep creating, you know, the kind of home, the kind of classroom, the kind of world we want to live in, right? It means certain actions are going to create the results that we want, right? And looking for those conditions, nurturing those qualities, doing those actions of kindness that will reap the result we want. But not only that, every action is going to have a reaction and make change. So we can start to really think from that deep intention. We also call step 1 mindful intention. But the big question is, what do I really want? And underlying every thought, every action is a thought, right? But we're mostly unaware of it, generally speaking. We're pretty much on automatic a lot of the time. So as we become more aware of our intention, right, then the actions will follow. And those actions that follow will be actions that we've understood and seen bring a good result, a happy result. And that's what we all want, right? Simple. It's simple. And those actions make change. And change is step 3 in these 7 steps. And it's understanding and trying to analyze even from a simple question. Can you think of anything that doesn't change? Everything changes. Everything's connected and everything changes, right? So we can start to have those intentions and really feel empowered to make it happen and empowered to change and move toward our goal to manifest what it is that we really want to create for a happier world, to bring more happiness into the world. And step 4, and along with that, of course, is this understanding too of if things don't work out the way we wanted, because it's often the case too, right? Even if we are trying to practice kindness, maybe the other person's not quite ready for that. So what we do is we understand that that will change too, that we are changing, that things get hard sometimes, but we can be resilient. We can grow from that. We can understand. We can get through it, right? So having that determination, that confidence, and that resilience, right? By understanding those, that in essence, we all want the same thing. The actions we take will help to reap those results and create those conditions, and that we can continue to grow our strengths and our ability to achieve the goals and achieve what it is that we really want to do for the benefit of creating a happier world. And not only that, but our whole, our mind creates our reality. Do we all see things the same way? We don't all see things the same way, but we are all constantly changing. Not only our body, but also our mind. And we know now from research that they talk about neuroplasticity, right? The brain is constantly changing. And the brain changes almost the same as if we've done the action just by visualizing it. But we are habitual beings. So we're mostly on automatic. We're just reacting. And we're reacting. Do we all react and see things the same way? No, we don't. Why? And the children can understand it's based on previous experience. They understand that. You know, two children are playing really happily together and a third child comes. One child says, oh, I want to go home now. And the other child says, oh, great, I've got two friends to play with. Why? Why do they react? Same situation, why they react differently? So children can understand. They'll say, oh, maybe the person who wanted to go home, he got left out in a game before when there were three people playing. It might be simple like that. They understand that it's based on previous experience, right? And we also know now too, connection, right? Connection. We got here through all of those interactions, all those experiences through our life. Since the beginning of this life. Connection. So we're going to pause for a second here, and we're going to have a little bit of a reflection on this, on interconnection, change, perception. Okay, so we're going to sit comfortably. I'm going to have a quick centering on the breath, and then I'll lead you in this reflection. Okay. So think of yourself now, in this moment. What is it that got you here? I am here because. Now go back to this morning before you ate breakfast. What was it that created the I then? Then go back to yesterday at the end of the day when you felt tired. What was it that got your I there? I am tired. Now go back to you as a child. Think of a time in your childhood. Really feel it. See it in your mind. What were the conditions that created that I experience? Now go back to where you came from, your parents, your birth. Now come back to this present moment again. Where did this I now come from? What are the contributing factors that create the experience you are having now? Okay. So on that journey, when we went back, even to our very birth, do you think everybody's experience in that reflection was the same? And yet all those memories and that journey through life of those vast interconnected conditions, causes and conditions, created your experience now, contribute to your experience now. So science tells us, as do contemplative traditions, like Buddhism, talk about how we perceive. That our mind, yes, is a continuum, and that every experience changes our brain, changes our mind. That we come in contact with an object and we have a sensation. We come into contact with an object through our senses. We have a sensation. And in a split second, this is 200th of a millisecond, we label it. We may label it good, bad, and then variations of that. And from those labels, the label we give that sensation triggers emotion to arise. Okay, and then we see things a certain way. We create our reality. Our mind creates our reality. And that reality is created. Do we all create the same reality? We don't all have the same. Nobody actually is creating the same reality. We all have our own unique experiences from all the causes and conditions, the connection and the interconnection that we've experienced through our life, right? But how does it exist, right? How does it exist in our mind now? It's thoughts, right? From memories, right? From imprints from our brain, holding those memories in different parts of the brain. And yet if we try to find those, we can't find them physically within us, right? You can't actually find those memories within you. They don't exist solidly, right? And nor do emotions. And yet we are constantly creating our perception of who we are, and we're telling ourselves that over and over, and who other people are. But if we open our awareness to the fact that in essence, all the time, everybody wants to be happy, causes and conditions, have created their reality too, right? Through their life. But we all want the same thing, right? And we see also that it's constantly changing, as is our mind, as are our emotions, as is our perception in any given moment, constantly changing. That's the way it exists, but we don't see it that way. And so what we do is we tend to get isolated in our perception and we judge, we label, remember 200 millisecond, label, bam, we label. And that label comes based on a previous experience. And unfortunately, we tend to have this negative bias that they say it takes, like 5 positive interactions to counteract 1 negative interaction, 5 positive interactions to counteract 1 negative interaction. Because we're like Velcro for the negative and we protect ourselves. And that fight, flight, or freeze response mechanism, we tend to look at things and label things according to protecting ourselves. But as we start to see and change our story about others, about our world, we're all connected. Everybody wants the same as us in essence, right? Wants to be happy. And this is step 4, is understanding the relativity of perception. And children can understand that. Even on, do we all like the same things? They know that we don't, right? So from this, step 4, our mind creates a reality or perception. We come to being able to transform our emotions, right? So transforming emotions also are constantly changing, right? But they arise and are triggered by what? In essence, not getting what we want, which is in essence what we really want is happiness. So if somebody says something to us that doesn't sound kind, or that sounds like they don't really like us, then what happens? That amygdala, boom, that fight, flight, or freeze leaps into action without us thinking. And remember, we're just focusing on protecting ourselves. But if that person wants happiness just like us, do they? They do. Then would they be angry or say things that are not kind if they were really happy? Would they, do you think? No. Children will say no, they won't. They wouldn't, right? Even children say they wouldn't. So that person wants to be happy in that moment. They're obviously not. They're saying things that actually are not so kind, or we don't feel it's kind. And now this changing the way we speak about emotion is very important. What's become very common is you made me sad, or you made me angry, or you hurt my feelings. So I say, no, you cannot say that. No, because that is training our brain, training our mind, right, to be a victim and to just focusing on ourselves rather than focusing on the other and what they're going through and experiencing. In essence, they want to be happy just like us. And nobody makes your emotions. We must take responsibility for our emotions. Okay? We can deconstruct it. Ask, where does anger come from? When you say, I'm feeling angry, where did that come from? It came from the other person because they said something that was really unkind. They shouted at me. So that shouting, how did it get inside you? Because you're feeling angry. How did it get in there? How did that angry get inside you? Well, they shouted at me. So that was sound. For one, where is that sound now? Where's the shouting now? Is it there? It's gone, right? Everything changes. It's gone. Interconnection, change, in essence, came from someone wanting to be happy. Do you see? And then that sound came along, went in your ear, and then jumped in maybe when you weren't watching. And then how did it become angry in you? How did it become anger in you? And when you're angry or sad, does it stay there or does it change? It changes. Yeah, it goes. So we talk about, you can say, I felt angry when you yelled at me. That's your feeling. You own it. What you do with it is up to you. Right? rather turn and apply that understanding we've developed before now, which is that that person wants to be happy just like us. Something's going on. They don't look happy to me, right? Turn back, depend on that, because it's a reality, actually. That person's not happy. There's something going on. And then what could you do about that? Maybe I could give them a little space. Maybe they do say something that could be helpful for you. Maybe, you're doing something that they're getting frustrated with you, with something that you're doing. You could ask them, hey, what's happening? Can I help? Oh, looks like you're frustrated. What can I do to help? Okay, you could do that and then learn and adjust in order to benefit. Adjust that behavior. And if it's too difficult, maybe give some space, right? But use your wisdom, your understanding of the why do people get upset, right? Because everybody needs to take responsibility for their upsets coming from them. It's interconnected, again, connected, but let us use our wisdom to act with kindness, with compassion. And that's step 5, transforming emotions. And step 6, we applying and developing all the way through, we're developing that empathy that we developed right back when we started to see that everybody wants the same as us. And that all our qualities, all that we enjoy comes from the labors of others. And yet many of the things we use, we know now, particularly in this time now, come from other countries, right? Where people maybe don't live so comfortably, where people don't have the leisure and the pleasure that we have around us, right? And have some, wow, well, how could I help them? It's interesting, we had this, I remember having this discussion with a class of kindergarten first graders right after 9/11 and talking about kindness and compassion and trying to make sense out of what happened, right? And so I said, I think everybody wants happiness, don't you? Yeah, I do think so, but not the bad guys. The bad guys. The bad guys. I said, so what is a bad guy? Well, they do things that are mean and that hurt others. Well, did you ever do anything like a little bit bad sometimes? Like a little bit not so kind sometimes? And why did you do it, do you think? Well, I took cookies when my mom said, don't eat the cookies before dinner. I sneaked a cookie and I didn't tell her. Oh, so why'd you do that? Because I love them. And I thought, okay, so you thought it would make you feel good. You want to maybe be happy. Sometimes people do things that are not kind and it hurts a lot of people. It's true. But maybe they just don't understand that won't bring them happiness, right? Because when we do things that hurt others, does it bring happiness? Does it make it a happy world? It doesn't. So, and besides, those bad guys, what were they before they were bad guys? Were they always bad guys? What were they before they were growing up? Or they were a kid? Bad kid? Do you think they were a bad kid? What were they before they were a kid? Way back, they were a baby. Did you ever meet any bad babies? So what happened from when they were a baby to when they were growing up? And growing up choosing to do things that were not so kind. And the children said, seriously, the children said, like, kindergarten, elementary, 5, 6 years old. Maybe something happened to them and then they didn't get so much love, or, they're really sad about something, and then they got angry. Sometimes when we get sad about things, we get angry. See, connection, where no solidly truly existent bad guy, empathy, right? Empathy, something happened. That person had a lot of hardship, right? Connection, empathy. And based on that, there's a really lovely quote that is, there are no strangers in the world, only friends I haven't met yet, by William Butler Yeats. I love that. And it's true. Connection, empathy. And empathy is triggered in the brain, right? Just by listening to another person, just by focusing on their story, what they're sharing with you. It triggers the same part of the brain as empathy. And yet I call it the lost art of listening. These days, we're all so busy. Everybody's so busy, right? I mean, even communication, right? Very short, brief texts back and forth. And that gives it does give a little dopamine effect. There's connection there. There's a feel good. If you get a response, people don't respond to you. And same on Facebook or social media, nobody's getting back to me. It can have the opposite, but it can also give you that dopamine effect. That connection feels good. Connection feels good. But if we're still just focusing on that gratification, right, it can go bad really quickly. They didn't get back to me, right? So training the mind to think out, right, to think about others, not just focused on oneself, right? That connection nurtures the feel good that comes with kindness and compassion. So I say empathy is like the foundation that gives rise. It's like the seed that sprouts into compassion, the action of the bursting out of the ground and bursting out to benefit others. To quote Prince, who's unfortunately passed away, but he says, compassion is an action word. And compassion, empathy is more sort of the connection, the nurturing of that caring, the loving kindness and the caring about others. And compassion is the result of doing for others. And it's almost like an automatic, you just do it because you've been trained that your mind sees things in the whole world differently, more in the way that the world exists and that all beings exist. In every moment wanting happiness, interconnection, doing for others, and we are all connected, we're all in this together. Change, constantly changing, that we can create whatever it is we want, perseverance and being able to do that. And everybody has that potential. Perception, that we have all, our mind is constantly changing. We are narrative beings. We can change the way we see things for the better. And we can change and transform our emotions through compassion, through understanding, through empathy. Seeing the other person is also wants the same as us, but is not happy, right? And we can let go of our emotions much faster as well because we see everything's changing, right? And we don't get that from other people. We're connected. They'll challenge us with those, that interconnection will challenge us, but we don't have to buy into it, right? We take accountability. We take control. Then empathy, everybody is the same in wanting all of these things and being all part of this same chain of interconnection, change, perception. And we depend on others for our very survival, even the animals. And there's so many wonderful stories about animals too, and their compassion, their empathy and compassion. And then we act on it. Bam, we nurture that and then we act on it. We are empowered. We are empowered, both in empowerment and our perception of the way that we are able to change ourselves and the world around us. So that's kind of compassion, and we're all in this together. They talk about Mother Earth. Well, in essence, yeah, it is. We all depend on this earth, right? We all depend on our mothers for survival. We all depend on this earth for survival. So, we really, it takes that sort of environmental awareness to a very deep level, actually, these 7 steps. So we always have, as part of that, caring for the planet is caring for all beings. We all breathe the same air. We all live on the same planet. We all need the water that cycles around the earth. This great book, One Drop, and it shows how, it's a number of books now for kids that shows how water just cycles around the whole planet. So we all share the same water, the same air, the same earth, and the same warmth from the sun. And we talk about we have all that goodness inside. It's like the shining sun. Sometimes the gray clouds go in front of the sun. Those hard feelings come and cover up that goodness, that innate goodness that shines out from us in warmth of kindness. But the sun's always shining behind the clouds. And I'd like to finish up. We didn't get to any questions, did we? Because I used it all to just blah, 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 blah. Sorry. And I had a great quote for you, but we've got 3 minutes to go. So shall we are there any questions, Laurie?
There's nothing in the chat. I don't know. We can open it up to anyone if they have any questions or clarification or comments.
Or I can read you the last little quote. And if anybody does have questions, they can write to me. And you can write to me maybe Pam Cayton, PamCayton, Pam Cayton @gmail. And I'm very happy to get your questions if you have any. And I'll do my best to write back as soon as possible. Okay. But we can do that. And if people are interested too, now that I have a little more time, we're opening up the online training again. So that's also available. So just write to me if you're interested in our online trainings. So let's reflect on this for a moment. And this is from an Einstein quote that you probably have all heard, but it's amazing to see that we live in a time where science and contemplative traditions are coming together, ancient contemplative traditions coming together to support each other. It's scientific. And if we teach children from that level, that practical, logical basis, that they can really develop their critical thinking, and their goodness, then they can really develop into very wise and awaken that wisdom that they naturally have, wisdom and compassion. So Einstein's quote, "A human being is a part of the whole called by us universe, a part limited in time and space. He experiences himself, his thoughts and feelings as something separated from the rest, a kind of optical delusion of his consciousness. This delusion is a kind of prison for us, restricting us to our personal desires and to affection for a few persons nearest to us. Our task must be to free ourselves from this prison by widening our circle of compassion to embrace all living creatures and the whole nature in its beauty." So
that's wonderful. Thank you.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you for taking the time. And love meeting you and connecting. So
thank you so much, Pam. That was so inspiring. I'm really, really humbled by what you've shared today. Thank you so much for joining us. Fabulous. Thank you.
Beautiful. Thank you.
Thank you so
Thank you,
much.
everybody.
Thank you, everyone.